I'd like to welcome everybody to the October 17th Town of Lewiston work session. I'd ask everybody to please turn off all cell phones, pagers, and electronic devices, and assisted listening devices available for the hearing impaired. I'd ask everybody to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd ask for a moment of silent reflection, please. Thank you very much. So at this time, we will start the public hearing on the special use permit site plan review for the Borrego Piva solar energy system on Williams Road. Carol?
Please take notice that a public hearing will be held by the Town of Lewiston Town Board, Niagara County, New York, on the 17th day of October 2019, commencing at 6 p.m. at the Town Hall, to hear and consider the following property and property owner applicant: Richard and Adrian Piva Borrego Solar. Property location 4352 Williams Road, Ransville, New York. To consider application for a special use permit and site plan review for a ground-mounted utility-grade solar energy system on said premises. All interested parties will be heard by the town board at said public hearing. By order of the town board, September 23rd, 2019.
Thank you very much. Evelyn Lauer.
Did I get an overview? Give an overview first? I mean, you have to, but if you just want to go with the comments.
Do you want, before you guys speak, would you like to hear an overview? Okay, well, as long as everybody's okay with that. Okay, thank you.
I'm going to be over here, so I'm going to yell out. Hopefully you all can hear me. My name is Mark Kenward. I'm with Urban Anthony Consulting Engineers. We're assisting Borrego with the local approvals for this project. This project will construct and operate a 7.2 megawatt DC ground-mounted community solar energy system at 4352 Williams Road. It's located on the west side of the road, approximately 2,250 feet north of Swan Road, and it's historically been actively tilled farmland. This first exhibit I have here is of the overall site. It's a 97.65 acre parcel of land. It has about 1,100 feet of frontage on Williams Road and is 3,980 feet deep. This essentially encompasses approximately the project we're proposing encompasses about 28.5 acres of land on the eastern half of the parcel. This includes 17.8 acres within a fenced solar array and 0.63 acres of access driveway that extends in 1,340 feet in from Williams Road. We're proposing about 3.4 acres of tree clearing along the southern boundary of the field. As I said, aerial utilities will extend in about 200 feet from Williams Road, and after that, everything is underground. Utility scale solar projects such as this are allowed and regulated under the Town of Lewiston zoning code. Utility scale solar like this when being proposed are allowed in rural residential districts as well as industrial zones. This proposed project is in a rural residential zoning district. The site layout has been designed and laid out in accordance with the Town of Lewiston solar energy code. Some of the requirements include a minimum lot size of 5 acres and a maximum lot area of 100. As I mentioned a moment ago, this project is on a 97.65 acre lot. I'm going to talk about setbacks. The required minimum front setback is 200 feet, and the proposed Williams Road front setback is 536 feet. The required minimum side setback is 100 feet, and the proposed minimum side setback in this case is 108 feet. The required minimum rear setback is 100 feet, and the proposed rear setback is 1,828 feet. There's also required setbacks to existing dwellings as follows. 250 feet to any existing dwelling on the subject parcel. The distance to the landowner's residence is 465 feet. The code also requires 500 feet of setback to any existing dwelling on adjoining lands. The distance to the nearest dwelling on the adjoining lot is 513 feet. That would be the Lauer property. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Thank you. And the maximum allowed height is 20 feet from grade level, and on this site, the maximum height is 9 feet. We were here last month at the town board meeting, and since then we've made some changes since we were last here. Based on concerns expressed by the neighbor across the road, the driveway entrance was shifted south 25 feet, and landscaping in the form of tree plantings was added along the Williams Road frontage and along the access driveway up closer to the field. And again, this was in response to the neighbor's concerns at 4339 Williams Road. We've also reduced the access driveway length by 460 feet, and we consolidated the turnarounds to one turnaround with the equipment pads, and we reduced the tree clearing by 1.5 acres. During construction, the construction of this facility is environmentally friendly. Only minor amounts of excavation and grading work is required. As I mentioned, some tree clearing and stump grubbing is going to occur along the south boundary, along the southern edge of the field. Some minor and limited site regrading is proposed in the area of the equipment pad and for 3 culvert drainage ditch crossings. Upon completion, the site will be fenced and planted to a meadow grass. The remainder of the site west of the proposed solar array can still remain in agricultural use. During construction, the project will generate approximately 50 vehicle trips per day. That's 25 arriving and 25 exiting. And this includes construction-related deliveries and employees. Once the project is in operation, it will generate no discernible noise to neighboring receptors, no adverse glare, and no traffic, and there is no nighttime site lighting. Maintenance activity is limited to mowing up to 2 times per year and an occasional visit by electrical service technicians. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Evelyn Lauer.
On September 23rd, I spoke at the town board meeting where I expressed my concerns for and opposition to a proposed utility-grade solar facility to be built next door to me. Some of my concerns revolve around how a power plant would change the rural feel, character, and environment of our small community neighborhood. I'm not against alternative energy sources. I am, however, against indiscriminately siting industrial solar facilities, and in this case of this proposed one, I'm very much concerned with how it will affect our community and if it will ruin our neighborhood. When visiting Borrego's website, I came across the statement, "Our job as a land developer is to identify the right parcels of land suitable for utility-scale solar projects." On the list of characteristics Borrego considers when evaluating if a property is right for solar, I read the #1 characteristic is that it is located near a large town or city. Our small 1-acre road can hardly be classified as being located near a town or city. The Sentinel reported that the property in question has historically been used as active farmland. How does that fit in with Borrego's position that they are putting unused open spaces to work? According to the town's zoning on solar energy systems, the town board finds a growing need to properly site all types of solar energy systems within the boundaries of the town of Lewiston to protect residential, business areas, and other land uses to preserve the overall beauty, nature, and character of the town of Lewiston. How is allowing an industrial power plant next door protecting my residential area? If you approve this application, how is that preserving the all-over beauty, nature, and character of the town of Lewiston, and specifically the nature and character of Williams Road? I have many questions, and as a resident whose property directly borders this proposed project, I feel the town has deserted me by keeping me out of the loop on the entire proposal and planning stages of this facility until forced to address residents' concerns. And still more questions arise. Can the town or Borrego guarantee that my life, my home, and my property values will not be impacted? Does Borrego plan on taking measures to limit the impact of this facility and transform it in a way that we won't hear or see this sprawling facility that will be constructed a mere 100 feet from my property line? Do they have any idea if there are health risks or issues connected with long-term exposure to industrial solar facilities? Has Borrego ever been sued to stop a facility from being forced into an area when the residents are opposed to it? If so, how many times and what were the outcomes? When I purchased my property 25 years ago, I wanted to put down roots in a rural and country setting. If I wanted a home in an industrial location, I would have chosen to live in areas of Niagara Falls, Lockport, or Buffalo. If you permit this facility to be constructed, it will change the nature, the character, and the feel of my home, my property, and my neighborhood for the rest of my life. Some people have told me that this is a done deal and already slated for approval. Is tonight's meeting being held to placate the residents so this proposal can be rubber stamped and the approval driven home? As I said in September, it certainly feels as if everyone is trying to push this through without the residents being made aware of what's going on. My final plea to the town board is this: please, do not ruin this great neighborhood. Williams Road is not an appropriate location for a utility-grade solar facility. This is not an industrial road and should be kept this way. Thank you.
Thank you, Evelyn. Andrew Nichols.
Good evening. I actually live up on 104. I found out about this project about a week and a half ago because, come to find out, I have recently found out that there is now a third project that the same energy company is looking at, which is directly adjacent to me. So when I looked into it, I realized that not only have we got the one that's being developed currently on Swan Road at the master's property, we're now behind the master property on Williams Road, and now we're moved also to a piece of property that's directly adjacent to me between Swan and 104. And to be honest with you, my family's been on the piece of property. I'm a fifth generation fruit farmer. We've been here for 140 years, over 200 years in this county. I took a class actually with Mr. Guyman 26 years ago. It's called Participation in Government. And he encouraged us all to come to board meetings and talk about concerns and issues that get involved, basically. And I came here a year ago and I got involved in the Masters project and voiced our concerns, and several residents did the same thing. We all voiced our concerns about the Masters project. I think there was at least 30 adjacent residents that basically said we really don't support this project. Yet the town board chose to approve the project. And yeah, I think there was a lawsuit about it, and that didn't end up going anywhere. And I guess I'm here again tonight to say I'm going to voice the same concern. These projects, just like Evelyn just stated, they don't belong out in the country. You can call it a solar farm, but it's not a farm. A farm is using the land for agricultural purposes to grow food. It's what I do. The town website has this great paragraph in the beginning that talks about the historic character, the attractive neighborhoods, the working farms, scenic vistas, quaint shops, vineyards. I'm actually the first vineyard as you come out of the village of Lewiston and you see all those beautiful vineyards on 104, both sides of the road, 75 acres of grapes, juice grapes that I grow for Welch's. That's my operation. I got hundreds of people stop and say, boy, those vineyards are beautiful. We love the smell of the grapes in the fall. We love those cherry trees when they're in blossom. I can guarantee you, there's nobody driving down Swan Road that's looking out their window saying, boy, that solar farm is a beautiful thing. I love when solar panels are in bloom. I love when solar panels, the smell of them when they're ripe, boy, they really smell good. I don't think anyone's saying that. You can come up to my farm. I've been picking grapes on the hillside for the past month and look down over that and see that field of steel. It does not belong in our neighborhood. It does not belong there. Another one on Williams Road does not belong there. Another one that's going to be potentially placed right next to me does not belong there. I have thousands of dollars I invest in my property to grow crops. And you're going to just destroy it by allowing steel and glass panels to be built around me. And this was a concern I brought up last year. I said, you allow special use on one property, what's going to happen? We're going to create the Swan Road Solar Corridor. What's happening? We have a 17-acre one on the master's property. We got 28 acres on Williams Road. Potentially 20 acres next to me. 65 acres. Wow, in a year, we're almost a third of the way to the 200 acres I stated. And let's see, what was the meeting that I was here? August 27, 2018. And you know what the comment was from the solar panel company? The substation here at the end of Model City Road and over could only handle maybe 1 or 2 projects of the 17-acre size that Masters. Gosh, it sounds to me like we're almost up to 4 times that. So either there's more capacity in the substation or somebody's spending a lot of money in that substation. Again, I think that the town has created, by allowing the special use permit without really thinking about the big plan, we've created something that we really have no way to stop it now. The solar company, whether it's radio or, hey, I got this today in the mail. Here's a solar company and this is one of probably 20 letters that I have received in the last 4 to 5 years. We like your property. We want to build a solar farm on your property. They've identified us. That's what they want. We're going to have, like I said, hundreds of acres of this. And I have to live with it. My family has been here, stewarded the land. We have farmed here for 140 years. And this is what we're doing. We're destroying it. To be honest with you, I'm not going to idly sit by. I will come here to every board meeting, every time one of these projects is planned, and I will complain. You may say, hey, we can't do anything, we've got to rubber stamp it. Because we've already allowed one, we got to allow them all. I'm going to complain every time. And to be honest with you, some of you are up for election this year, I can't vote for any of you. Because if this is how you treat residents, you don't take our concerns, like we had last year, you don't take them into consideration, you just approve projects. Sorry, I lost my vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Jason Lombardi.
I'm a resident on Williams Road, 4339 Williams Road. I have questions, basically, to the town board. With like what Andrew said, you know, back a year ago when it said, you know, maybe 1, maybe 2, and now there's talk of 4, there's talk, you know, there's just talk of every property owner around this area is getting contacted by, like, these companies. Do you guys have like a limit? Is there something that you're gonna be able to say, we're only allowing this many of these solar farms and so many, you know, 2-3 square miles or something like that? Like, that's what, you know, us as residents want to know. Like, I'm looking at, you know, and that's the other thing. I'm looking at selling my house that I killed myself to build out in that area, that you don't know where to go now. You know what I mean? Like, what's the town gonna do? And then, you know, there's no property near the village. There's no property, so the beautiful property we have that we would get people to want to come live here to Lewiston and to develop, we're making it an industrial park. So I just don't see how that's even gonna benefit the town as a whole, keep letting these things go up, and how's it gonna, you know, attract people to want to come to Lewiston, where, you know, we all know that we're running out of property developed near the village, and the village is a huge, you know, a beautiful spot to be. And Lewiston was a great spot to be, but like, how many of these things are you guys gonna allow in this area?
There hasn't been a decision made on that yet. So it's something that's gonna be considered. I think we talked about it.
I mean, why can't that be put into this solar law that you guys are, I mean,
Well,
I
we'd
mean,
have
just
to,
to give the
we'd have to
residents
revisit the law. We'd
some
have to
kind of-
revisit the law.
because right now we're all under the same thing. Like, how many of these things are gonna come up? I mean, we just, there's too much unknown, and it's, yeah, and it's, like Andrew said, I mean, I have not even 5 acres, and we were contacted by solar, like, so it's scary.
Mhm.
And something that you've worked, you know, your whole life to beautify, you know, and anyone can say that it's not gonna affect the value of my property. It 100% is. 100%. I'd like all you to tell me how that isn't.
I think the story we were told was similar to what we heard earlier, was that the capacity for that area could only handle so many of these solar panels before you just couldn't put any more input into the system. So we, at least my impression was, is that it would tap out itself, that it would be, there would be a limit to it, and then it wouldn't be commercially viable anymore. If that's no longer the case, then I don't know, but certainly something we should investigate.
I mean, I'm not on the town board, but I know already they're gonna invest into the infrastructure of to be able to increase the grid. I mean, so.
Mark, is that something Borrego's doing currently?
No, so National Grid has a limitation on what they will allow. There is a capacity on that substation.
But have they made upgrades to that substation?
They've made upgrades to allow for our sites, but it's not substantial enough to allow for a flood of solar arrays to be interconnected.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking $10, $20 million worth of upgrades that would need to be put in place. And National Grid has to approve those, and there has to be a demand for that energy. So if the demand doesn't exist, they're not going to allow for these upgrades to be put in place. And we've seen that on other substations across New York State.
Are you able to quantify about how many of these the current substation would be able to handle?
We can certainly get you something from National Grid that gives that sort of statement.
I think we need to communicate with National Grid ourselves. And
Right.
get the right.
Well, if you could do that and also give us contact information.
Yeah.
So provide both, that would be great.
How many substations are there in this area?
Lewiston has 2.
And they're
But
both
the-
in that area?
No,
No,
Swan
it's just
Road
one.
is 1, and then there's one that's down in the Sanborn region.
Okay.
Are both of these projects being connected to Model City, to the one here at the end of Model City Road? Both of these projects, the Masters project and the 28 acre?
That's correct.
So obviously, there's at least enough capacity for, we're talking here, over 40 acres. And the fact that my neighbor, there's just been a significant amount of engineering done on his property in the past week and a half. There's another 20-acre parcel that's being investigated heavily. So, like I said, we're at 65 acres that we're talking. I mean, admit that at least. Is there 65 acres that you're looking at?
So the third site, we have not gotten approval from National Grid on that. That's something that we're coordinating.
Okay.
And all the people behind us on Dickersonville are being approached for the property behind us, next to us. We've been approached, not just by you, but by other companies out of New York City. And they're offering like upwards of $250,000 for the parcels behind us. So it's going crazy. Like, we're gonna be surrounded.
They're offering to
We can
purchase.
get you guys that coordination.
Okay. Thank you. Brian Sully or Scully? Scully.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I would like to be one of the many opposed to the newest proposal of a solar project currently on Swan Road. While it hasn't been brought before the board yet, past precedent has shown that by the time the proposal actually comes to this room, a decision may have already been made. We built our house 8 years ago this month on a piece of family property in the country. We wanted our children to grow up with the opportunity to appreciate nature and to be able to play outside and come back in when it got dark or they got hungry. It's usually when they're hungry. Nightly walks with our dog to the sound of coyotes and the wind across the corn stalks are familiar sounds. We are not much for neighborhoods, and we love every minute of being a Swan Road resident. Our neighbor owns a large piece of property that is bordered by ridge and swan. For as long as I can remember, he has leased this land to a local farmer. And we look forward to the harvest every year and have become friends with the equipment operators as they happily offer my sons the chance to ride on the combine and showing them the ins and outs of how modern farming works. Both of these experiences are being threatened. The property owner told me this week that he was approached to install a 20-acre solar farm on his property. Again, I am against this proposal. Nightly walks next to the hum of generators and the cold view of the backside of solar panels are not what we envisioned when choosing to move to Swan Road. Last year, even against strong opposition, the board voted unanimously to approve the solar project just down the street from me. This minimally invasive visual aspect can now be seen from my son's bedroom window, and the view from my in-laws' house on Ridge Road has forever been transformed due to this project. Excuse me if I seem cynical, but the project last year only benefits one person, which is the property owner. My utility bill won't decrease, and the rural atmosphere, which I moved to the country for, has been eroded. And this newest proposal, which again has not come to you yet, who knows how far along this project has already gone, and it would benefit one person, the property owner. It was 22 years ago that the same teacher that Andrew mentioned told me that government representatives are servants of the people, and if enough people voice their opinions, the government officials would make decisions based on these voices. It seems that in the past 2 years, that those with positions of power or with lots of money seem to have bigger voices than residents that would be affected. You opened the door on these solar projects, claiming that there weren't any laws on the books to deny the original one. These companies with no vested interest in our community will keep walking through these doors until you shut them. Let me be clear, I am not opposed to solar energy. I am a 7th grade science teacher. There are many great pieces of property that could host solar panels, perhaps on top of a landfill, which this company touts on their website that they have installed before. Or on Lake Road, there's plenty of property across from the water that has horse farms. These locations would reap the same benefits to those involved and garner less complaints from the inhabitants. Finally, let me once again stress that we do not want further development on Swan Road for solar panels. I implore the board to immediately take action to set limits on the addition of these. Areas zoned for agriculture should not be threatened by supposed farms, which do not belong alongside cherries, grapes, wheat, and corn. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. John Grabowski.
Thank you. I didn't quite prepare a speech like everybody else did here today. I'm basically going to start out, as Mrs. Lauer said, I'm not opposed to alternative energies. And I understand this is kind of the wave of the future. It's everywhere. It's going to be everywhere. I work for a company that makes the products, that builds these solar panels, DuPont. We supply a lot of material to Chinese worldwide for photovoltaic industry, and I work directly for them. So I understand the whole scope of solar energy. They teach us this at our plant. I mean, we go to seminars, we see the panels. So I've been with this now for like 10 years already. The problem I have, I guess, is this board, when you drafted this Energy Code 360, or the Solar Energy Code 360, I believe it's called, in reading it, you kind of omit a few things. Like Mr. Piva's property here. He has a large piece of property. 100 acres is a big piece of land. You take something like this and you place it at the back part of the property. You place these energy fields where you can't see them. Most of Lewiston is vacant old farmland or cornfields that are a mile off of roads. That's where these places belong. You put them where areas where it doesn't interfere with the locals, like Mr. Lombardi's house across the street from one. 500 feet seems like a lot of feet. It's not. Timmy's house, Timmy's is 528 feet. You look at it from, you'll probably be able to read the writing on some of the solar panels at 528 feet. I mean, that thought had to be, you missed that thought, or I'm not sure if you people were all present when this was drawn up, but you know, I can't blame anybody individually, but these are the things that you need to consider going forward. When you have this much land to work with, why do you put these things right up front and invade the area with it? And that's what these people are talking about as an invasion of their privacy, their financial well-being. Mr. Lombardi may lose a substantial amount of money on his home. I know the Sonoyans probably will. I mean, you got to feel for these people. Nobody here is going to give them any credit for it. You're not going to lower their taxes, or they're not going to give them free electricity for their loss. I mean, they are going to bear the brunt of that loss solely on them. And that's for the gain of Barajo or Timmy or, you know, or Mr. Piva. I mean, these people are gaining, people are losing. That's the focus, you as the representatives of us. And I know you represent Mr. Piva and Mr. Masters. It's understandable. They're landowners and they have the right to do things with their land, but they need to do it in a respectful manner. And I think putting things out front is not respectful. When people lose money, that's not respectful. And that's where you gotta go with this. You gotta think that route. Even with Mr. Peeva's property now. Things are negotiable. Move this thing back. How many feet did you say that was off the back was off the property line? The back of the,
1,800 feet.
all right, and how many feet does he go back?
Almost 4,000 feet.
Yeah, well, there you go. That thing can move back an easy 1,000 feet without it being a problem. It may be a little more cost to the energy builder of this thing, but that is their respect for the people that are living in this area. That's the respect these people need to show us. We've invested our money. We pay big taxes. We don't pay cheap taxes on these properties. And we're actually getting booted here, as far as I see it. So negotiate this with Baraggio. Have them move it back. Have them move it out of sight so Jason and his wife don't see these things. And even for Mr. Masters' property, put a berm, a natural tree line, something to cover it, so that when you drive by it, you ain't looking at an iron beast. Because that's basically what you're looking at. The land doesn't sprout metallics. It only sprouts plant life and trees and,
Well,
you know, and this
just
is
so you
what
know,
they-
there is screening. There's screening that's gonna go up.
Yeah, well, yeah,
and I think
I
for
don't
future-
know the finer points
Yeah.
of Timmy's. I didn't get involved in it. You know, I probably should have, but I didn't. And the screening being what, though? I've never
There's a
seen.
whole screening plan. If you came into the office, you see it, it's, I think, white pines and,
So that is gonna be planted.
yeah.
I'm glad, this is getting cleared up for me. And that's something that I would appreciate as a neighbor, and I drive by his place every day.
Right.
And that would be a good thing. That I can see. You know, I mean, that's not bad. As long as you are making an effort to cover it, okay, you know, but that effort needs to be made. But in terms of Mr. Peeva's land, where now obviously Timmy actually went to the back of his property, pretty much. He couldn't go any further. But his land can go back further. And if they want to make some money on this project, they should be willing to invest a little bit of money to send it back out of the eyesight of the residents that are there. And maybe you won't face any oppositions. You know, that's all I guess I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Grabowski. Okay, that's all the people that signed up for it. Would anybody else like to speak? I'll give them that opportunity. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Lombardi, and I debated about whether to speak or not. And like I said, I'm not opposed to solar power, but I live at 4339 Williams Road with my husband, Jason, and my two sons, Jacob and Jared. We will live directly across from the now proposed industrial solar plant on Williams Road. As a lifelong resident of the town of Lewiston, I chose to stay in this community and build my family home on a quiet country road, which would allow my children the freedom to walk or ride their bicycles without fear. My son Jared, who is here with me tonight, is multiply disabled, and he derives great pleasure from doing so while visiting all our neighbors up and down our friendly road. With the introduction of this proposed solar farm, the increase in traffic and the noise, whether it's building or not, I drive back and forth on Swan Road every day and I see what's going on, it will most certainly prohibit this for him, mostly due to multisensory difficulty. Aside from my concerns about the safety of these plants, which has been brought to your attention repeatedly, I find them to be an extremely visual eyesore, and the fact they'll be directly across from my home upsets us greatly. It has also been brought to my attention that many of the residents of the Moore and Swan Road facilities raised major concerns about these projects. However, their words fell upon deaf ears. The residents of Williams Road were not notified of this project until Mr. Peeva, who has, I thought for years, been a great neighbor, alluded to the fact that a solar farm was going up, paperwork has already been signed, and now was the time to sell because of the change in the landscape. It's funny that if you look back at the minutes from previous meetings, Mr. Peeva was also very concerned about the solar invasion on Swan Road. I wonder what was offered to change his mind. Well, we all know what that is. Jason and I have both known many of you on the board for a long time. Mr. Guyben, once again, my high school social studies teacher. I want to ask you a question. Would your daughters want this across from their home? Al Bax, fellow classmate as well. Would your wife and children want to look out their bedroom windows facing this solar plant? I ask you to think about this tonight. Mr. Broderick, same questions. Why can't these solar farms be erected in areas without a high concentration of homes? Although Williams Road is a short road, we do have many families. Many of us on Williams Road have put a great deal of money into our property and take great pride, like Jason said, in what we've built for our family. As I drive down Swan Road and look at the one being erected, I see beautiful land with panels. With the possible approval of this industrial plant, I strongly feel that I will be forced to abandon the home and property that my children dearly love. The only place we might be safe is in the village. I strongly oppose this solar plant and leave you with one final question. If this goes through, which one of you would like to buy my home with its new full front view of this solar plant? Please think about this tonight.
Thank you.
Steve,
Yeah.
we're not taking any action.
No. Anybody else like to speak? Yes? Please state your name.
My name's Sherry Leggett. I live on Moore Road, at 2700 Moore Road, directly across from the new solar project that's going up. The one question I wanted to ask, the map that you have here, like we had in January for our project, can they make changes to that between the time you put this here and they start construction?
You mean this particular one? I mean, if we issue the special use permit, there can be some restrictions or some qualifications.
Well, the reason I'm asking, when we were here, the driveway was located in a different spot in our map because I brought it up at the time. The current driveway was directly across from mine. When they started construction, they used that driveway. They did not install the new driveway that was on the plan. And I had concerns about property damage at the time, and I have had property damage. I've had a semi in my front yard because it pulled in to try and back in. So I'm just asking, because Williams Road is very similar to our road in size and the amount of houses. Are their driveways and everything that are on this plan going to stay where you are showing them they currently are?
Mark, I know you're not the Moore Road project, so.
Yeah, for this particular site, we have very limited opportunity to locate a driveway here because the access, once you get past the wooded area, the access is very limited. This driveway, there's an existing laneway there now that we originally had the driveway going over. Because of the concerns from the people across the road, they asked for some changes, which we think we did a good job trying to accommodate them, and we added tree screening. The trees are conifers, just like Swan Road will have 2 rows of conifers. They'll be planted at about a 7 to 8 foot height when they're initially planted, and they're expected to grow 1 to 2 feet per year. And the projection out is that in 5 to 7 years, they'll be 99% screening this facility. There won't be any gaps in it because these are typically are good growing trees, 1 to 2 feet a year. Their spreads are upwards of 20 feet or more, and they're planted at 12 feet on center, but they're staggered one row to the other.
Yeah, I'm just concerned that the plan was changed from what we saw here that night to what they built. And there were problems with my property because of it.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with the site.
Yeah.
So I just want the Williams Road people to, like, if it's gonna change, notification, something, because we got nothing.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Yes. What?
Yeah, my name's Candy Grabowski. I live on Williams. And the question I have is if they're going to put all these trees up to cover these solar panels by Mr. Masters, why didn't they do that last year before they started? Why would you wait and get everybody upset and, like, you have no consideration for the neighbors? I feel terrible for Sonoyans to look at that all day long in those 3 beautiful homes. It's sinful.
Mark, when are those going to be planted on Williams Road?
I believe on Williams Road, they're anticipated to be planted at the end of the project. That's typically when it happens. But what we're calling for on this project, and it's in the stormwater pollution prevention plan, is that the trees out at Williams Road be planted first right after the driveway goes in. That was one of the concerns that was brought forth, that they don't want to see the construction. And of course, this is oriented a little differently. There's not a lot of frontage, not a lot of area opportunity for the frontage to see the site. But we did agree to plant the trees along Williams Road prior to the start of construction.
I understand that, but why, the road and the trees on Swan, I mean, I drive by there every day, that is the biggest eyesore. It looks like some sci-fi movie. I mean, it looks terrible.
Well, I sympathize with you because construction is always it appears very chaotic, but it is a methodical process that it goes through.
But the trees, if they would have been planted before the project started, would already be maybe 10 feet, because you said they grow 3 feet
Well,
or
1
2.
to 2 feet a year.
But I'm saying, you would have had that covered, and you wouldn't have everybody screaming about everything, because I mean, I understand why they're doing it. I have no problem with solar energy, but when you're taking out neighborhood like this, I mean, it's, you know, my grandkids go by and they're like, what is that, you know? And I'm like, it's a solar farm, and everybody's like, it's like a sci-fi thing going on in Ransomville. I mean, it's sinful.
Thank you, Mrs. Grabowski.
I just have a quick question.
You gotta pop up, I'm gonna make you,
Can I speak from here?
Well, as long as he identifies
yeah.
himself. His voice
It's
will
a
carry.
very simple question. My name is Dave Catlin. I live on Williams Road. I understand this is kind of like a fad or whatnot, you know, we're talking long-term, like 25 years for these things.
Mhm.
Is there any bonding or something
Yes.
when
There's a
Rago is out of business?
a
and
decommissioning bond.
So they come take these things down and replace the farmland the way it was, and we don't
Yeah.
have any more eyesore?
So let's say, I know the concern when the Swan Road project is what happens if this technology is defunct in 8 years and they've come to bigger, better? We have a decommissioning bond, so if Borrego went belly up
Right.
and left the area gone, you're not looking at a ghost town of a solar farm. We have a decommissioning bond to remove everything off of there.
Yep.
And there's minimal damage to the property, so I mean, I think if you had a farmer for a couple of years that tilled the property, it's back to where it was before.
Okay.
And that's part of the law, our solar law. And again, going back to the last project, and I'll say this project, you know, I don't think anybody up here anticipated the problem with the solar farm that we've seen. We had a solar law, we did a public hearing for a solar law, nobody came. And I understand until it's directly affected you, and we explained this the last time. So I don't think to a man, anybody saw any issues coming. So we created a solar law. We used Wheatfield's solar law, and we kind of manipulated it to be more stringent than Wheatfield. And it wasn't until we actually had a project come before us that the neighbors came and said, wait a minute. So I guess if we would have had some of these issues brought to our attention originally when we created the solar law, we probably would have put limitations. We probably would have done some things differently. So it's something that we as a board need to revisit on future solar farms. So again,
May I?
yeah, go ahead.
I think it's important to also mention that we were getting a lot of pressure from New York State, part of the green agenda, that is being pushed down the pike to us. You've heard about in another community where the solar project is even larger, the state has taken over all the control of it. If we didn't have something on the books that could have happened to us too, we could have had the state take away our home rule. So we felt it was necessary for us to come up with a solar project law. And we did. We have side yard, backyards, screening, everything that we thought of based on what was being proposed through New York State. And obviously it needs to go back and be fine-tuned again. I think the supervisor has basically alluded to that. We'll probably have to revisit the law and see what we could do. But I do recall very strongly, we were told that that substation could only handle 2 solar farms.
2 or 3.
2 or 3. And now this is making us nervous that more is happening that we're not aware of.
And I know, I don't want anybody to bite my head off, I've said this to Jason before. When you look, you know, the first thing I did when I heard about this project, I pulled up a Google map on the location. And I thought, wow, it's completely surrounded by woods. It's farmed in there, and I drove by it, and I thought, this is gonna be a great location. Nobody's gonna complain about this location. Well, I was wrong. So, I mean, you know, it's,
Second story, which is all custom windows, I look right down into that field. So
Yeah.
I don't care what trees you put, Jason, the landscaper, you guys know that? I'm looking right down in that field, so I'm gonna see exactly what you see from Swan Road.
And you know, that's the problem from 104. I mean, we can talk about pine trees on Swan Road, but the reality is when you're up in my farm, top of the hillside, I mean, I can see, Clear Nights, Toronto beautifully, on top of the landfill, which is surprising. I mean, the landfill's gotten big, but I can see the skyline in Toronto, gorgeous. And I'm gonna see the solar panels, whether or not there's 20-foot high pine trees. It ain't gonna make a difference. The likelihood is, I can usually see the fields, even fields, from my property.
I understand.
It's gonna affect my view shed.
Well, I
It makes no
definitely,
difference.
I definitely appreciate everybody coming out. Would anybody else like to speak before we close the
I just
public
have
hearing?
one more question.
Sure.
Before I go on this plan. Originally on the plan, the staging area, which, you know, I did note when I sent you about moving it. Did you guys move it?
We did not. We put up the trees in front of the staging area, but we're limited on where we can stage it because of the wetlands that are within the project site.
So there's not room behind it? Because here's my concern again, and I see it, I leave the house every morning
Excuse me.
about 6:15, and there's already trucks lined up on Swan Road waiting to pull in to that site. And like, again, the residents and the kids, their bedrooms are in front there, trucks lined up on Williams Road, right in that staging area that they want to put. That's why I want it in a different area, like John said, in the back where, you know, trucks aren't sitting there, air brakes, like it's, you know, just that noise.
I think we could
And again,
address
he
that
has a lot of
specifically.
property, and again, I'm not opposed to solar energy, I'm not against people doing what they want, but like John said, just if we could do it more neighborly, and that staging area, there's great screening there right now on that property where the staging area is gonna be. It's gonna be a shame to take that out. You know, would I propose of those trees going in? Yes, but that was on top of, you know, what was already there. And I didn't know they were clearing, you know, trees along that north side.
South side, I think. South side,
of
so.
that property.
We shifted the driveway,
Driveway over.
but it was Jason's request.
We shifted it so, we shifted it so
You
when you
don't-
look down the road, you wouldn't see the solar, like, it would have a jog in it, so it would break your sight line.
Yeah, but they told us that they were keeping all the frontage there, that nothing was being.
No, that's why I'm asking about that.
The frontage is gonna remain, the south side is where I think they're removing trees, which would be towards Mr. Piva's property.
Yeah, Davis property, that's where it, I don't know, it's around about 100 by 300 area of the staging area, something like that, so.
I don't know how we could move the staging area to the back, because it come to find out, even though it's tilled farmland, it still met the definition or met the standards for federal wetland. They actually had to go back out there a second time and redelineate it to the redelineate it to the satisfaction of the Corps of Engineers.
But you're not putting anything there permanently, so if it's wetlands and you're just putting a staging area, which then you're gonna put back.
Right, but
Right.
to ask trucks to drive thousands of feet back off the road to make a delivery on a temporary road, I don't know that it's a realistic request. I think what we're doing here is, it's temporary. It's gonna be during the duration of construction of about 9 months. And then the staging area will be restored back to, it'll be seeded back and allowed to grow back up naturally.
But you're gonna be removing some trees out of there.
Those trees are like huge trees, what is?
We aren't removing any huge trees in the staging area.
It's all shrub, it's
It's
all
all shrubs.
shrubs. But I don't understand like why, I mean, they go back, I see on Masters, you know, they go way back to do the deliveries, so what's the difference between this
If
one?
you-
There's no staging area right on Swan Road for Masters, it's in
It's
the
off
back.
the road, and we have
And it's in
room,
the back.
we have room to move the trucks around and get them back out.
So there's no room behind it to
I don't know
move
if
it
it's-
back 100 feet? You got the whole length of
We
the
got
property for a staging area.
This whole front area here This whole front area here is
Yeah, I know that's
wetland.
wetland.
And then the wetlands extend down to the rear of the farmstead. And this was about the only upland area with adequate road
What about
access.
behind it? I'm saying right behind it.
Way back here or way up here?
No, right woods. Right behind it.
I'm sorry,
Like,
north?
why can't you do the staging area behind these woods or behind this property and just shift everything 100 feet? 100 feet. And not visually
Chase, can you turn that
affect
so we can see what you're talking about?
it. So right now, the staging area is gonna be right here,
I got you.
in front of my whole house.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Which
it's
there's
only,
trucks.
it's only back to the tree line here. These are the trees that are going in first.
Right.
We define staging area.
My house is from here, see this?
Yeah, I know.
All the
This
way
is
to
your-
here,
this is
yeah.
your driveway.
So that's in front of my house.
Right, and we're putting the trees up as you requested it, and we're
Right.
requiring that to be done first.
Right.
So we have the area behind here.
Still not gonna
that's
do
upland.
anything with the noise during the construction and stuff being
So where
dropped
we-
off. I'm in construction, I know how much noise it's gonna be.
Where were
So
you?
I'm saying 100 feet difference.
He wants us to.
I would either want it back here
Or
or
up
back
there.
there. You can't shift this 100 feet,
So you
so
basically-
you don't,
You want the staging area in the site of the proposed.
Yeah.
Mark, could you look into it?
Yeah, well, we have asked the team, but we can certainly do that again.
I appreciate it. Okay.
Could you
Well-
do more than ask? Could you make a concerted effort to move it?
I mean, I'd like to know why, like,
Wouldn't it-
why can't it be?
Well,
Wouldn't it be easier for the
I don't think they
truck
could have that
drivers
answer
to pull
tonight.
in straight and then turn around at a staging area and pull straight out?
Well, that's why we have the staging area up front here.
So they can pull in and turn around right there?
We're have adequate area to turn around in the staging
Well-
area.
But they can't turn around at Tim's, right, at Mr. Masters'?
No.
No,
They go towards the back and to another area. It definitely can be done.
Check it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have the space to do it.
Well,
Thank you.
The very first speaker said that she thinks it should be in industrial spots. My long-term wish, and I doubt if I'll live long enough to see it, is I'd like to see a solar farm, solar project, I don't like to call them farm, on the Lake Ontario Ordnance Works when that gets cleaned up. Perfect brownfield, perfect area for it, but I won't be around when that happens.
That's a meeting November 13th.
One more question.
Yes.
Not related to this, but, the Moore Road project, I know it's not related to theirs. What substation does that belong to?
I don't know, Tim, do you know that? The substation, the Moore Road project, what substation is that connected to? Is that connected to the one?
That project has a main transmission line right down the middle of the Lowry property that they're connecting it to.
So is there not a
There's
substation?
a substation, but I think it might be in the town of Wilson.
Town of Wilson?
Town of Wilson. Okay.
It's straight back.
You said if it was connected to Lewiston, now you're up to three. That's my point, I don't
Yeah.
know where it belongs.
That's not one of the small roads right there.
Okay, it's going to Wilson.
There's a transmission line that goes right, directly due north through the middle of that property.
Okay, answer your question. Okay, can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And just to let everybody know, there's gonna be no action taken tonight, okay? Approval, denial, anything, we're gonna sit down and, go from there. So I thank everybody for participating.
Steve?
Hmm.
Are we going into executive session right now?
No.
Can you briefly for the board talk about monitoring?
Well, we got an agenda approval, so you can ask for it. For attorney
Do I have to
conference.
say for the purpose of it?
For, no, the purpose of attorney conference. Mark, can you give Evelyn a card? Can you give Evelyn a card so you guys can talk later? I mean. Bear with us, everybody.
Cameras are going down now. Cameras are down. He must be doing a wedding or something.
Oh, you think we're making fun of when I say something like that?
I know. No way. I know enough of them that they're all right.
Jerry's been at my house, I can't tell you how many times.
Really?
Yeah. Mr. Piva? I don't know Mr. Piva.
I was telling Steve before that CWM has restricted, they can't have trucks sitting on Palmer Road waiting for opening the CWM, back when they were bringing a lot of things. So they had to wait someplace else. One of the board residents told me that those trucks are there before dawn.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Moving on now to the regular work session. I'd like the agenda approval. I wanted to add 2 items. I have 2 resolutions that I want to add under my name. One for the sign pollution and one for the airbase, support of the airbase for compatible use plan.
Would it be appropriate to have an executive session to have consultation with the attorney
Relative to the public hearing?
relative to the public hearing?
I move we do that.
I'll second that.
Okay. I don't think we need to vote on it. I think we just approve the agenda, but, so I have 2, do we need to add, Tom, the license agreement, or do we already have that on
It's
there?
already on.
I can address it under legal,
Okay.
when you get.
Well, I thought you were talking about
It's
that.
under old business.
Pardon?
It's under old business, right?
No, that lease agreement is actually, SRO with Niagara Wheatfield, and then that Niagara Public Safety Commission is the lease agreement, I believe, for the town property.
Right. Oh, that's.
Yeah, this is something different.
Oh,
This is
okay.
with Niagara University, so I'll, yeah, under legal. Okay. So, anybody else have any additions to the agenda?
No, thank you.
Can I get
Move for
a,
approval as amended?
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Thank you. Again, we'll take no action on the Borrego Solar. Abstract, Councilman Jacoby.
I move to approve the regular abstract claims number 2,680 to 2,911 and recommend payment in the amount of $559,870.79 plus a post audit of $102,137.87.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? So moved. Approval of the meeting minutes.
Move for approval of the 9/9 public hearing / work session and 9/23 regular town board meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Now move for
opposed?
the tentative, the meeting of October 2nd, 2019, the tentative budget, President, you were absent.
Yeah, I'm abstaining.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and one abstention. Department head concerns.
Start with Jeanette.
Yeah. Jeanette,
You're up.
you're up. Department head concerns. Jeanette Colasano from the senior center, or just talk real loud.
Talk real loud?
You're fine.
Okay. I just want to mention to the board, I'm really so pleased with a lot of departments that I work with. I meant to tell you that this morning at the budget meeting. Mr. Dashino helps me tremendously. Mr. Zano helps me tremendously. The wastewater treatment plant and highway. I mean, I call those guys, it's crazy sometimes, and they're right there. So I just want you to know that we got a lot of in-house help. Thank you.
I really appreciate it, because I think we do all work together very well.
They're right there. I couldn't shut the door the other day for some reason. It was stuck in the wastewater treatment plant. Danny's there all the time too. They all are. So thank you, all of you. The other concern that I had was, I told you this morning, the roof is leaking at the senior center. I don't think it's a major thing. I did talk to Tim, and Tim suggested that I call Mr. Lannon. I called him this morning when I got back from my budget meeting, and
We had spoken earlier this morning. We had spoken to the roofer, or left a message to the roofer and the manufacturer to try to set up a visit for them as soon as we can get them out.
What's the age of that roof?
5 years.
Five?
5 years.
It's 5 years, I think, like this month.
Yeah, 5 years.
Yeah.
The project originally included a 2-year warranty that had to be provided by the contractor, but the material has a 20-year warranty provided by the manufacturer of the material.
Is that a rubber roof on that? Is that what it was? Do
I
you remember?
believe it is APM.
Okay.
So more to follow on that, we'll just wait to hear back from, we've
Yeah.
not heard back from them, but we'll stay on until we get.
Yeah, the cold weather's coming, so we gotta stay on it quick.
Has
Yeah.
anyone been up there to look at the roof?
Pardon?
Has anyone been on the roof to look at it?
No.
Sounds like there's a couple of spots, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a couple of spots where you see some staining on the tiles. So we'll have them go out there and
You know,
start, at least at those
what's-
locations.
Our fire inspector was there the other day with some posters, and I showed it to him, and he said, yeah, you need to call Tim and get somebody to look at it. So that's
Okay.
the only person that's looked at, the ceiling.
I just wondered, didn't we put in a heating unit since that roof was new? Within the last couple of years,
Yeah.
heating, AC?
We put in an AC unit last year.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember when we, confused, I did a bunch of them.
Well, we did the one because it fit exactly
Yeah,
the same,
yeah.
you know,
If it were
area.
if it were my building, I'd send someone up there to look around that heating unit, because that's a logical place for it to be leaking. It's the last thing they worked on.
Yeah, like I say, what we'll start is, we'll go inside, see where
Right.
the ceiling tile has some
Yep.
stain on it, and kinda figure out where that is on the roof, and go see what we got.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jeanette. You're all set. Chief Previtt?
I didn't quite understand, did you guys schedule a executive session
Yes.
for today?
Yeah.
And I do need to add something concerning the employment of a certain individual.
Okay. Amend the agenda for a second
moved.
issue.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay. Anything else? No? Tim, anything?
I'm on the agenda under old business, but I do not have the roof bids back yet, so that is not completed. Hopefully next month we'll have that back and I'll have a number for you. And then also, just as a side note, I know I'm in a little funny position being the building inspector and also the landowner of a solar panel, but if any of you would like to talk about an opposite view of what you heard tonight, I'd be happy to enlighten you of an opposite view and some very hypocritical statements that were made tonight, so.
Okay, thank you. Jackie, I think, are you on the agenda?
Yep.
Okay. Bill Conrad, anything?
Yeah, just one thing. I just wanted to thank Chief Previtt and Officer Brandon Hall. They did a safety patrol. They participated in a safety patrol ceremony at West Street. And, one of my guys was newly badged safety patrol fellow over at West Street. So he did a great presentation, very inspirational to the kids, and they all really enjoyed it. So I just wanted to thank them. Mr. Hall, or Officer Hall, is the SRO of West Street in the elementary schools. Right? Yes.
He's actually at the high school, he just goes over
He
there,
goes
right?
to all the
Okay,
schools.
yeah, good, thanks.
Bill, I got a question now. This last solar farm, it went through the county, it went through our planning.
Right.
So now it's here, our zoning, it's here for the final approval, is that what we're at? And the county doesn't have no problem?
No, and typically the county planning board, unless it's really a glaring thing that interferes with something on a county level, then they're really not gonna, meddle in the local decisions, At least that was my experience when I was on the county planning board. That, it's kind of a different tier, that they view it, so.
And the town planning board goes by the law that we've created.
Right. I mean, some good points were raised tonight, and it probably is, I worked on the solar law, so.
Right, if we didn't have that solar law in place, it could be, that prohibits a lot
Right.
of what goes on.
Yeah, I think we did a good job as far as putting it together in the time that we had. But like any law, I mean, it needs to be, updated
Tweaked.
and kind of.
Tweaked.
It has to evolve with these things, because when we did it, we didn't expect the,
No, we thought one or two, and we were
so much
basically.
interest in, the solar farms, so it's kind of overwhelming right now.
I didn't think we'd get the backlash. I thought solar farms, it's not a big wind turbine whipping around, and I know that you get a lot of complaints to that. I thought a solar farm, but boy, was I wrong.
Well, it's certainly part of the green agenda. When you have so many people moving away from carbon fuels, solar projects seem to be the way to go.
Sure.
But when we did that training, a couple of sessions that we went to, we were cautioned, if you don't have a solar law, the state's gonna come in and take care of it for you.
Right.
And I don't like to lose local control.
Yeah. Thanks, Bill. Dan Zano?
Yes, I would like to move forward on the CDL class for one of my employees, Jeffrey Dell, in getting his CDL license. I talked to all you guys about it. I think you have the sheet I gave.
Yeah, you dropped it off. Yeah.
It's definitely beneficial. He doesn't have his license. It only helps us out, helps the highway department out if they need, it just helps everybody out. It's just stuff we definitely need to do.
Right. And we talked about this, that was one of the items we talked about in executive session. We took no action on it. And I think the feeling was is that the department head, AKA Dan Zano, really thought it was a benefit that the town should move forward and pay for that individual's CDL license. Now, if some employee says, hey, I want to get my CDL license, and nobody says we need it, it's just so, the town wouldn't be liable to pay for it. So in this situation, personally, I think, because of Dan's concern for getting another driver, I would be in favor of the town supporting him to go to get a CDL license.
I would be in favor of it too, but should we have a letter from the department head making that an official request?
Right.
What do you
So we
recommend?
don't set a
What do you
precedent.
recommend, Tom?
I think you could make a motion right now if you want to approve it and ask Dan to memorialize his feelings in a letter so that you can move forward with the idea if that's what you intend to do.
Okay.
I'd so move then.
Did you get that, Dan?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, good.
And I have Mr. Guy's teacher as well.
Yeah.
Well, but
So
some
did
of
I.
some of my fellow board members like to take little shots at me. When the one lady came up to the speaker with the gray hair, I thought sure one of them was gonna say, there's another one of your students.
Thanks, Dan. Bob Lannon, do you have anything?
Just a couple of tidbits for the board. We have actually reached out to the DOT and has actually spoken to them about the status of the water line.
Yay.
And they said that they have gone through 3 of the 5 departments, with the other 2 still forthcoming. We've asked them if there's any deal breakers at what they've seen so far, and the answer has been no.
Good.
We have 2 more to go.
So we just have to be cautiously optimistic.
Yes, yeah, it's.
Well, you wanted to do the bids in the middle of winter, and they have just coincidentally hit that.
What I would suggest at this point would be to tee it up for a January bid. And I've made all that known to the DOT, hopefully they'll be able to cooperate.
Great.
It'll be the best time to bid.
Great, great.
And the other, it's been a few days since I've been there, but the site is being, prepared, it's been, fill's been brought in, it's been compacted for the police building, now that the highway department, all is going along pretty well.
Good.
You see some, erection there starting pretty soon.
Who did we get that?
Beginning The 25th is their schedule, so they're gonna take them a week. No, I'm sorry, 5 weeks to put it up.
Who did we give that bid to? Who?
Morton Building. It was a little better. Great. Brian Chrisman.
On the agenda here.
You want to go and take care of it right now?
Sure can.
Let's do it.
Mr. Transmitted that everybody couldn't be in town today. This would be an amendment fee for 2018, 2019. Financial documents enclosed with this for the amendment. Authorization and approval of this tonight, along with the 4 sealed resolutions and the 4 signed. Otherwise, original hard copies submitted will be to the new snow and ice contract for, I believe it's a period of 4 to 5 years.
Okay. So do we need to approve the proposal?
Have you had a chance to review that?
You do, I have not had a chance to review that, I don't think I have it in front of me either. I I would say you can make a motion to
Yeah.
approve it. What happens with those normally is that they're gonna be very similar year to year, so. we
They have
approve
been
approval.
years past.
I would like to glance at it though,
We
so
can
go
take
ahead.
the
I would say
attorney's
you could entertain a motion to approve it subject to,
Yeah.
just attorney review.
Make a motion to approve, subject to attorney approval.
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye. And then au-
Opposed?
And then authorize the supervisor to sign, again, subject to attorney approval.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Good
Okay.
job, Brian. Thank you. Another former student.
Another former student. Mike Dashino.
Oh, yes, true.
We were just, notified, I was gonna ask the board to declare the bleachers at Washuta Park access equipment. This was put on Tim's list of different things that we can do around the parks for a while now. Lewiston Fire number 1 had asked us to use those bleachers for a drill. I guess Brian's here, so Brian can tell us. Trapped child underneath there, so basically what we had said was we're gonna declare them access equipment anyway, and they can set them on fire, I guess.
With the kid in the.
Okay.
Don't burn the turf. Yeah.
What we're gonna do is, we'll have them give us a letter for the next board meeting, I'll have it on the agenda for the next one, just so you're aware of it, and then hopefully in November they'll be able to get the drill done, take care of 2 birds with 1 stone.
Okay. You want, we can declare it excess.
You want to do it tonight?
Excess in a safety hazard.
Right. So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. You
Opposed?
want to give preliminary permission to the fire company to do a drill on it? With it?
Yeah, I think we could make a motion to donate it to Lewiston number 1 Fire Company.
It's got no other salvage
No
value.
value. Yeah, no.
So moved.
There is, those are steel, so when they're done with them, we probably like to kind of bundle them up and get the steel, the scrap value.
Oh.
That's about it.
Who would get that?
The Parks Department.
I mean, it's, the town would get
Yeah,
it.
we would return to the A fund or the B fund parks or
Yeah. Just so we ought to get the value out of it.
Those bleachers were actually donated to us back in the 90s, so we never really paid any money for them. So usually what happens whenever we sell scrap, or it goes back to the fund that we purchased from. So it'd be up to Jackie. Jackie can decide where it goes and figure it out from there.
Can we do the truck?
Truck's on the agenda.
Go ahead.
The other thing that the board's gonna be aware of in the next week or 2 before your next meeting, we are gonna start construction of the ice rink over at Academy Park. We think we have everything worked out with the village, so you will start seeing some movement there. First thing we do is we haul everything there, so it's all hauled up, and then we work backwards from there. So, yeah, you've seen it for the last 8 years.
The last couple of years, you've had orange snow fence in a couple places. If you,
There.
I thought it was
We
there.
usually try to avoid that stuff.
Well.
We try to avoid this.
Good.
We have safety fencing, it's not orange, it's the 6-foot metal fencing that goes around, the chiller and the operation area. Is that what you're referring to?
I was alerted by somebody that said, make sure there's no orange fencing. So I passed that on to you.
Anything that faces Center Street, years ago, we bought a white plastic.
That's what I thought.
It's a nicer looking one.
And you probably had this much orange fence. Somebody
Oh,
complained.
gotcha.
I know there's some orange fencing right now on the bleachers. The village did
Yes.
restrict the area on the bleachers. I don't know if they're referring to
Maybe
that.
that could be what they're referring to.
I don't know if that's the case.
Mike, let's keep moving right along with you. Let's do the 2007 Ford F-150 pickup truck.
Make a motion to accept the bid from Options International for the 2007 F-150. The high bid was $1,125.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
You can address
So,
this.
yes. And I'm gonna touch base, just because you're here, Mike, this, we have in front of us a letter, in regards to Mary Lane. I don't believe she's here, pardon?
I think they asked for letters to be read in the record.
Yeah, so I'm gonna do that. It's Dear Town Clerk, I'm writing this letter regarding the town right-of-way behind houses on Mary Lane, which would be our town green space. Many calls have been previously made to Town Hall regarding the mess that was left after the ash trees were removed. The mess left behind is an eyesore to the residents of our street. Since the trees were cut and wood not cleaned up, we have experienced mice, bats, and skunks. One neighbor has lived on the street for many years. This year, she lost a safety cover for her pool worth over $2,000 and floats due to a mouse problem. After trees were cut, she noticed a hole in her shed roof. One neighbor encountered a bat in her house. We have encountered many skunks lately. We ask that you take our concerns more seriously before this situation gets any worse. Workers at Town Hall say they will call us back on our concerns, but never do. If our concerns are not dealt with, a petition will be started and we, the residents, will take further action. This is concerned residents. So, just to let everybody know, we talked to Mike this morning. Mike was gonna kind of sit down and try and give us a little bit of a time frame. I don't know, were you able to do that on, we're getting in there and trying to get some of that area cleaned up?
There's a few different solutions I can kind of come up with just for this particular one. We have not received any complaint or anything from anybody regarding the pool cover or anything like that. It's a big job. Right now, the point that we're at here, we've basically gone in and we've cleaned out the center area of the different wood piles to make sure that water's not leaking back in the property. That was our number one thing. We haven't touched Mary Lane too much. We were on the other side. I deal with a lot of residents. The vast majority of them are patient with us. They kind of understand what's going on. If there's a particular resident that has a particular problem, I always tell them that the quickest way for us to kind of handle it is to give us permission to cross through the property. Because right now we're working from the entrances and kind of back. So if they have, a huge wood pile, something they just have to get it out, it's not going to kill us to kind of go ahead and go back in through the property and kind of pull up. We're doing everything by hand right now. Just we don't want to displace any more, any more of the grounds. It's just, we don't want to get our equipment stopped like the contractor did. So a lot of stuff we're doing right now is basically just going in, hauling the wood out, and taking care of the piles as it goes. It's up to the town board. I mean, when you cut down 800 trees, you're going to have a lot of displacement animals. We saw that with all the different developments with Riverwalk, all the French Landing, all this. Animals are going to find a place to live. They're going to come out of their hiding holes when their natural environment's been disturbed. That's not shocking. I don't know what we can do about it unless the town board says it. Maybe we contact Orkin or something to see if there's a pest control that we can kind of perform in that area and make sure that the animals aren't encroaching into private property. But it's kind of a natural thing. These animals that lost their home, their trees, are going to look for new homes. They're going to have to migrate out. I think it's going to be somewhat of a temporary problem, as they branch out. But I'm not really an expert on rodents or skunks or anything like that. But yeah, we've had skunks in pretty much every neighborhood, Kiwanis Park even. I'm not sure if it's directly related to the trees being cut down or not, but that's something that, if the town board wants to take an action on it, that's, don't know if it's.
I think we just proceed with cleaning up, and we go from there, and
Right.
reassess, and,
Right, the large debris we're
Yeah.
gonna clean up.
Yeah.
The person has a number on here. Would you please call?
Sure. Yeah, we talked to quite a few residents.
But give this one a specific call.
Yep.
So that you get
Yeah,
an
and like I
answer.
said, that one too, we haven't touched a whole lot of Mary Lane. We've been across the street on Sarah Court. If there's an immediate issue, we can always kind of, like, the first thing we do is ask them permission to cross the property, and we can take care of it. But again, the original plan and the plan that we're sticking to is those big piles that they did leave. We've added to some of the piles. Those are the ones that we're gonna remove out. Anything that's kind of laying down on the ground, a lot of it has already been covered up with growth. The plan right now is not to touch that, unless it's blocking water, unless it's creating a problem. We were gonna let that naturally degrade. If residents kind of have a problem with that, then it's something that they're gonna have to kind of tackle as a separate issue, so the cleanup's done. Other than that, it said displaced animals. The other issue that we've had with the piles too is that it's hard for us to kind of go and figure this one out or not, but residents have started dumping back there again. That was a major problem with the contractor. All of the wood piles that are back there, people have been dumping their grass on all summer long. Again, we're going in by hand and pulling stuff out. It's made it a little bit slower, a little bit longer.
and I saw that firsthand. I've walked it several times.
Highway Department's been great with giving us equipment, but now they're in their paving season, they're just coming out of it. So they use our equipment, they use their equipment, so access to equipment's been a little bit tough. When the ground freezes up, we can continue to pull this stuff out by hand and just keep on going with it.
Okay.
As far as the time frame, again, it's gonna be hard for me to tell you, hey, it's gonna be 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. It's always gonna be weather dependent, always gonna be dependent on, equipment available to us and, our other schedules too.
Okay.
Any questions, anything at all, they can always call me. I know Steve is talking to hundreds of residents over there on a weekly basis. I thought we were pretty good at getting back to people, but we must have missed one here. They're free to call me anytime.
Yeah.
But you have her number now?
It's on I do have a copy of the letters.
Yeah.
Please call her tomorrow. Or him, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a her. Okay, thank you very much. Yes, clerk course. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
This is a request from the tax collector for the purchase of a BAS online software program at a cost of $4,000 with an annual maintenance hosting and support fee of $900 for a total of $4,900 for the first year.
Move for approval for discussion.
Second.
Motion is second.
Jackie, where's the money?
Gonna use the money from the vacant dog control officer, position.
Okay.
Move for approval.
The only thing I'd like to add to that for the record is this would fall into the procurement concept of, it'd be a sole source for the software. This would be the only source for the software. It's over, the normal procurement amount that would require you to get some additional estimate, but since this would be the only provider that works within the system that the town already uses, it'd be the sole source.
Okay.
Put that on record.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you, Carol. Sorry to slight you. Before we go any further, we have a letter here, and I'm going to address it with Mr. Johnson. I know it's been a long night. The public hearing went on for a while. Mr. Johnson has a concern. Everybody's read the letter. I think everybody's aware of the situation. The only thing I can do, Mr. Johnson, unless you want to speak about it, is assure you we're looking into it, and we're trying to find a way to resolve your issue. You're familiar, Tom, what I'm talking about, right? The Wolf Run and the sewer, we talked briefly earlier today. Did you have a suggestion, or are you still looking into it?
I mean, the only thing, I've talked to them earlier. I personally have no issue with changing the easements, adjusting the easement, as long as it makes sense to Mr. Ladden and the engineering department, as well as Mr. Masters. That the proposal that is being presented is essentially an explanation as to why an easement, a drainage easement on a particular piece of property is significantly larger than it needs to be. And if that in fact is the case and is confirmed by the engineering department, Mr. Masters, I have no issue with revising the easement. And I think that'd be the best way to do it so that it's properly revised for the person's property moving forward.
Well, that'd be awesome. I mean, that's the thing is, because I have a really, really nice lot. I actually have the biggest lot in French Landing, not bragging.
You have the
But I
biggest
got the
sewer
smallest
district,
use- I got
too.
the smallest usage area. And I literally, when I went to go put a fence up, an ornamental fence, I went to see Tim, and I can only go 30 feet out the back of my house. And my yard goes back 200 feet. And so I just want to go back 100 feet and have a nice ornamental fence for our dogs to run around in. And that's really was the first concern. Plus, down the road, resale value, not having that, that
Well, we get it. I understand, and we were kind of shocked when Tim brought it to my attention, because he mentioned this to me weeks ago. I was like, wow. And we talked about it, and it was we're just trying to find a way, to make it work.
Is there any way I could go ahead and get started on the fence?
Well,
Put the front part in next to your house.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, what I think we could do is, once we do this, we can come, the good thing is our next meeting's only in a week and a half. It's a week from Monday. So I think we can have an answer by then, can't we?
I mean, it's not so much a question for me as it is going to be a question for the engineering department and Mr. Masters in terms of what the proposed easement that they're proposing is in fact in line with what they're proposing. They want to reduce the drainage easement, and as long as everyone says that's okay, I don't have a problem with them doing that.
If I may.
Sure, absolutely.
I'm Bill Tyne with Forbes Alfredo. And so
so we built this house. I thought he wanted me to come here and get a permit to demolish his house and replace it with a solar array.
Yeah.
It's not too
No,
soon for that.
it's not,
Okay.
fortunately, it's not allowed in that area.
Not enough acreage.
Yeah.
So what we were talking about, I just prepared this to make it really clear what the situation is.
And we have this, I don't know if you've seen this, we have picture, I mean, we have.
You got
the
it,
whole-
that's
yeah.
it, that's exactly what this is.
We know,
So
I
you
know.
understand what we're talking about?
Yes.
Because really I think what happened was, when this subdivision went through a preliminary design,
Yeah.
the bioretention facility that's next door on lot 13.
Right.
Was larger, and it covered both lots, and the easement went straight across both lots.
Right.
When they got the final design and did the calculations for it, it didn't need to be that big, and it was left only on lot 13. None of it's on 14, but the easement line is a vestige that's still sitting there, even though normally you'd only have an easement following the pipes, which go down the side yard and across the back. And that backyard pipe was set and built where it was supposed to be built, outside of that 35-foot tree preservation area, so the trees remained, everything was done just the way it was supposed to be. It's just that he's left with a lot.
Right.
That's constrained with an easement that never should have been there. There's nothing there to do. So what we were really hoping to do, I think, was that you get this and just turn it over as not something that requires board approval. It's just something that can be delegated to the department heads, and if they satisfy themselves that, you know, the engineering drawings were all there, everything substantiates it. If you can go through that and say that it's right, let them just refile the easements and do it. And the other part that Mr. Johnson was requesting, and I understand your position where you're at, but I've seen it in Lancaster and other towns over the years where people were allowed to put facilities up, just with the understanding that even in Pendleton, where we have the brine line, and there's issues where if you put up a fence and they need to come in to maintain something, they can take it down and not put it back up again. It's his risk. What risk is there? There's nothing there to ever come in and maintain. There's literally no
You're asking
facility.
for an early approval on putting up a fence when we're telling you that it might be a week and a half and you can get it.
But that may be fine, if that's okay
My
with him,
recommendation,
that's fine.
like I said earlier, is that you wait for everyone to take a look at it and decide if you should change
But do
it.
you think,
Do
do you think by that week and a half it'll be?
I'm not gonna make the promises on time, sir, but we're gonna look into it.
I'm hoping to.
I got a deposit with, I got the deposit with the fence guy, and I really wanna get it up for the winter.
I'll try and push the issue, I mean, as best as I can.
appreciate it.
Yeah, because like I said, I don't think anybody here is like, you know, no, you can't put your fence up, we don't want to see, I mean, it's a unique situation, and I think if the development was designed differently, not by you, not by us, you know, nobody here is really to blame. It's just a unique situation that kind of, I don't think anybody thought about.
When's the next meeting?
A week from Monday.
Same time,
6 o'clock, yeah, yep, yeah.
Do you think it requires a board action, or can we just delegate it to the staff to review?
Bob, do you have to go look at the property or
I
anything?
don't have to look
No.
at it, I spoke to Mr. Time briefly prior to the meeting, I've seen the drawings, it looks like it makes sense, I just would like a quick opportunity to speak to Mr. Masters about it, confirm, it looks that simple, and then,
Tom, would it need a board
Yeah,
approval?
ultimately it would. You guys wouldn't need to come back. I mean, you're talking about the town giving up property, right? The board's gonna need to make a motion on that
Tom.
in terms of changing an easement. So,
Okay.
yeah,
You think it does?
but you're not gonna need to come back for it.
Wait just a minute, Tom, can we make a motion tonight that, if Bob and Tim find it satisfactory, that we give supervisor permission to get a hold of him, tell him, put up your fence?
No.
You can't make that?
No, I wouldn't recommend that you make that motion.
All right.
No. If you're talking about multiple department heads looking into an issue that needs to be discussed and make sure that it makes sense.
Okay.
So I wouldn't take the first, step forward until everyone has an opportunity to look at the issue and make a determination on it. We're meeting in 10 days.
Yeah,
Recommend
and I
coming?
think
Do
you could.
recommend me coming for the meeting, or just not?
I don't think it's necessary. I think
Yeah.
we can continue to have a conversation with Ms. Chine as we have over the course of the last week.
So we should be out of town.
First time we've heard about this, by the way, is just within the last week. We've already quite a bit of progress.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, no, I do.
You know, we're moving quite.
I think if it makes you rest a little easier, nobody here is opposed to,
Yeah, no,
you know,
that's good.
to that aspect of it, as long as we work it out. And, you know, I was told that if there was just a little bit of a different design when it was first engineered, we wouldn't even have this issue, but.
Hey, and a nod to Forbes Comprendo, he's standing here right with me.
Yeah, no,
So- so
not by
how's
him,
your-
yeah, no, I know. I know this area, but thank you very much. I wanted to get you out of here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Okay, take care, yep. Okay, moving, pardon?
How about Ned?
Yeah, he's not a Yankees fan, is he? Real quick, finance.
I have one budget revision. That is for the $4,900 from the dog control personnel budget to the town clerk equipment budget to cover the VAS tax collection online portal software that was earlier discussed.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, is that it?
Talk really quickly, we had our department head budget meetings today. The preliminary budget will be delivered to the board at the next board meeting on the 28th. And our public hearing for the 2020 budget will be on Thursday, November 7th at 6 o'clock.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, under old business, we already took care of the roof bids pavilions. There's nothing.
For that,
For what?
to, schedule the meeting?
No, I think we already scheduled it. We went through a whole list, didn't we? We already scheduled that, didn't we?
All right, okay.
I believe we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we
We read
put
it out
out,
at the.
yeah, our whole
meeting.
schedule and approved it. The roof bids, Mr. Masters says nothing more to report. The sewer request, NRB Properties, that actually can be taken off the agenda. There's gonna be no action by the board. Niagara Falls Public Safety Commission lease agreement, Ned Pearlman.
The lease agreement that we proposed to the county in August has been accepted according to Claude George. He called me this morning after being prompted by Chief Wydell. The Sheriff's Department, Claude says it's fine, so the copy that's before you is the final version. I noticed two uppercase letters that shouldn't be uppercase in it. I can make a final revision.
Ned, I don't see it. I don't see it in front of us. I don't think we have a copy. We may have had one previously.
Well, you emailed me, I didn't make the copies before, I apologize.
So basically.
Basically, you're not getting any money from the county.
Right.
It's a 20-year lease, 50-by-50 space. County's paying for construction, county's paying for maintenance. The county is allowing the town to tap in for the service to the new building that's gonna be constructed. The county's gonna pay to have a utility pole moved across Herald. The county is also, it's not in the lease, but Chief Wydell said he spoke with Superintendent Train about allowing the portable generator to be also hooked up, and the county's gonna pay for the hookup to the utility pole. The town is gonna have no expenses with regard to either the maintenance, erection, or any problems with the tower.
Okay.
Do we need a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the
I
lease.
had a quick question. Was there anything put in with the equipment that we talked about?
No, because they said that wouldn't be part of the lease. They said that they acknowledged that they provided equipment, communication equipment to the police department. They believe they continue to do so, but that's not part of the lease because it wouldn't be for the lease of the land. It's something separate. But Chief Wydell acknowledged that he has had conversations with, the town about that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Move for approval of the lease as presented.
Second.
Motion, and a second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Do we need a motion to have the supervisor sign it? Question?
I was just curious about the timing of the construction, that's all.
They wanted to get started, I was told that they want to get started this fall before the end of the year. They want to get this thing going.
Because it ties into electrical contract with the police building.
Well, Tim, and I can speak for Tim on this. He got a phone call today. They want to move forward with this. And when they found out the ball was kind of in their court, several phone calls were made to get this to Ned. And Ned got a call, 15 minutes after?
Clive called me 15 minutes after I sent the email to Chief Wydell.
So, yeah, so they want to move on it. They definitely want to move on it. So, yeah.
Tom, do we need a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign the document? Why not?
Couldn't hurt. Yeah, it's a 20-year lease agreement.
It should be me asking
Well,
for
that's a
that.
procedural, but that's a procedural question, right? We can ask you a procedural question.
That's fine, we should do a motion.
Okay.
Move to direct the supervisor to sign said agreement. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks.
Yeah, I just wanted to, you're welcome. I just want to say as a resident, when they were resurfacing Fort Gray Drive, my mailbox was damaged and Superintendent Train took it out, had it welded, brought it back the next day, and it looks great. I had concerns whether he'd be able to do that, and he was good.
We'll see if it lasts the winter.
We'll see if it lasts till next time.
Brian, take care of that, would you?
Until a modern truck hits it.
You're good as long as you're down 104.
Anyway, so I wanted to thank him, but I know.
Ned, before you leave, are you wrapped up on this project for us?
Yeah, so thank you for
Thank you.
Thank you for retaining my services, service of my firm in this, and I'm done.
Thanks for all your.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Ned, take care.
See ya.
The SRO lease agreement with Niagara Wheatfield. That's this, right? That's
No,
this,
that's
no?
it.
Oh, that's on you.
But I can speak to the SRO lease agreement. That's something that both Chief Private and I could speak to. The issue originally came up, it's on old business, it came up a month or so ago. And there was a conversation between Chief Private and the superintendent over at Niagara Wheatfield with regard to some extended hours for the SRO officer into the nighttime, doing some dances and additional extracurricular types of activities. And it originally came to me as an SRO agreement that the supervisor had drafted and emailed, I think, over to the chief, and it came over to me that way. I looked into it a little bit. It's my legal opinion that the current SRO agreement that's in place that runs from 2017 through 2021 encompasses the concept that you could have an officer there for additional time outside of the normal school hours. So and there's also an MOU, a memorandum of understanding with the union with regard to that. So it's easier and it's good that what they want to accomplish already fits into the SRO agreement. So my recommendation is that there doesn't need to be any additional agreement or modification or amendment in any respect. I did email the superintendent today about that. I haven't heard back from him. It may end up on the agenda at a later date if he feels differently or really for some reason wants to have something specific. But I believe that that'll be taken care of with the SRO agreement that's already in place.
So basically, the chief, you have the blessing to go ahead and start
So we can go
scheduling
ahead
it?
and schedule,
Yeah,
and
right.
we'll do, the only thing that we'll have to do is make sure that we know for payroll that
Yeah,
that's
how it's
designated to
billed.
be billed to Niagara Wheatfield.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. New business clerk's correspondence.
You took care of it.
Okay. Sign pollution. I'm going to read this real quick. This is Lee Simonson. Town of Lewiston requests state's assistance to preserve community's historical character by making structural improvements and reducing and downsizing signage. Whereas Lewiston citizens, businesses, and local governments have worked diligently over the past decades to establish a vibrant community that is renowned for its historic and cultural assets, and whereas Lewiston has received national recognition as one of the top small towns in America, and while Lewiston's future is bright, it is critically important that we continually work on ways and means that will enhance our quality of life, and whereas it is in the interest of economic development and local prosperity that Lewiston preserves, protects, and promotes its historical heritage and cultural assets by ensuring that our community is free of extraneous signage and obtrusive visual pollution that can be distracting, unsightly, and confusing. And whereas in order to accomplish our goals, as similar communities have done across the nation, we're looking to create a cooperative alliance with agencies and governments, including New York State, to help us reduce sign pollution in an effort to reduce clutter, adapt our infrastructure to be more historically compatible, soften aesthetics, and make our community more attractive, prosperous, and safer. And whereas the State of New York Department of Transportation intends to make improvements locally, including the resurfacing Center Street in Lewiston in 2021, so therefore be it resolved, the town of Lewiston respectfully requests the advice and assistance of DOT to help us improve our historical presence, cultural reputation, and local economy by consulting with the town during the planning and design phase, and consider such things as 1, removing the large gantry at the entrance of Lewiston and replacing it with a smaller sign on the side of the road, and 2, remove the crosswalk and signs located near the gantry and replacing it with sidewalk pedestrian signs that urge pedestrians to cross at 9th Street stoplight. Number 3, review, redesign, and consolidate the signage on Route 104 on Lewiston Hill. And 4, downsize and/or eliminate other signs that may not be needed, are duplicative, or can be reduced in size. And be it further resolved that copies of this resolution be sent to Governor Cuomo Frank Cirillo, Regional Director of New York State DOT, New York State Senator Robert Ort, Assemblyman Angelo Mornello, and the Village of Lewiston Board of Trustees.
So moved.
Second. Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Very good. Before I read another one, Board of Assessment Review. This is from Linda Johnson, Board of Assessment Review member. Dear Mr. Supervisor and council members, the term of Andrew Nichols expired September 30th, 2019. He is a state certified member of the board and has been a competent member. I am requesting that the board reappoint Mr. Nichols for another term, October 1st, 2019 to September 30th, 2024. The State Board of Equalization and Assessment must be notified by the town clerk of any reappointment within 20 days of the date of reappointment. Thank you for your time and consideration in this matter.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. Okay, one more for me. And this is a draft of a local resolution regarding compatible use plan for the air base. Whereas the Niagara Falls Air Reserve Station is Niagara County's largest employer with over 3,000 full-time and part-time employees and is responsible for generating over $88 million in annual payroll, $168 million in annual economic impact, and plays a critical role in our national security. And whereas in the past, the Niagara Falls Air Reserve Station has found itself at risk of closure through the base realignment and closure process known as BRAC. And whereas through an intense and concentrated community effort locally and in Washington supporting the Niagara Falls Air Reserve Station, these closure proposals were reversed. And whereas a persistent threat to any U.S. Air Force installation is encroachment from land uses in surrounding areas that interfere with flight operations, and whereas the presence of encroachments have led to the U.S. Air Force bases being closed, and whereas local governments play a crucial role in evaluating and approving land uses and projects, and whereas the municipalities of Wheatfield, Lewiston, Niagara, Pendleton, Cambria, and Niagara Falls have all explored the Office of Economic Adjustment program to fund the development of a compatible use plan to protect military installations from encroachment uses. Whereas Niagara Falls Air Reserve Session and NIMAC leadership have stated that a compatible use plan designed by these communities would be a strong statement to the U.S. Air Force that the community is invested in the long-term viability of the Niagara Falls Air Reserve Station. Now therefore be it resolved that the town of Lewiston supports pursuing funding for a compatible use plan through the Office of Economic Adjustment in conjunction with the NFTA, Niagara County, and Niagara Falls Air Reserve Station for the purposes of coordinating local land use planning to prevent encroachment uses from interfering with the Niagara Falls Air Reserve Station, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Niagara County Legislature, Niagara Falls Air Reserve Station, NIMAC, Senators Chuck Schumer and Kristen Gillibrand.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. And legal.
I have one thing, with regard to, this is the license agreement. This is something that I'd ask for a motion for the town to grant a license to an entity called First Light Fiber. They're the entity that's running a conduit, a fiber conduit from one of the town utility poles. It's an unnumbered pole, but it's right near the corner of University Drive and Lewiston Road. And the license is for about a 39-foot conduit that runs underground underneath the piece of property that the town of Lewiston purportedly owns along University Drive there, up into a point on Niagara University's property where it continues. This is for the purpose of a mobile cell tower that Niagara University has either on or going up on their property. So it's really just a license that I'm asking for a motion and approval on. I've drafted the license so it has everything in there in terms of indemnification on behalf of the town, insurance running to the town from that entity, things along those lines. It's also revocable on 14 days written notice if it needs to be. So it's a pretty straightforward license to just allow them to run a conduit to a pole.
So move as presented.
Second. Second.
All, we have a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Motion for the supervisor to sign it or not?
Yeah, do a motion for the supervisor to sign it when, after we receive 3 originals back from the company.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. We took care of Auction International, we took care of the proposal for state contract. HVAC discussion, Morial.
Yes, I'd like to get a maintenance agreement again on the senior center and the town hall building as far as the air conditioning and AC units. Real quick, I'm just gonna read what I kind of threw some notes down, if any input. I went over this with the attorney. Included in maintenance contract will include inspection of all rooftop AC units annually, each spring after the cottonwood season is ended, approximately mid-June. It will also include the cleaning of the condenser coils, filter replacements, fan belt inspections, and replacements if needed, thermostat battery replacement, and setting of thermostats. In October, the heating units will be inspected, cleaned, filter change, and replacement of fan belts if necessary. If additional maintenance on the heating or AC units is needed in either building, it must be okayed by the Lewiston building inspector only. And how long we want, I don't know, Bob, if you want to put how many years we can go with a contract like that, I would look to you as far as that. And Tom wanted me to specify how many units are in each building, how many AC units in each building, and how many heating units that have to be done, so they know.
Yeah, we'll have that information.
I think Tim says he might have it, but if he doesn't, I'll.
He may have it well, yes, so I think what we can do is, what I've seen in the past, is that you advertise for bids, you get that for a 1-year period, and you have options for annual extensions, or maybe a 2-year extension kind of thing.
So it would be a 1 year with an option.
With an optional extension, which is, I guess in my experience, how those types of on-call contracts have been structured.
The other thing on this is, it may not require a full bid depending on the costs. So, as I understand it, a few years ago anyhow, the yearly contract for this was somewhere around $2,800 a year. So if it's a yearly contract that's under $5,000, it could be granted without going out to a formal bid. So it might be worth making some phone calls or putting together a proposal, but circulating it around a few people, or making some phone calls and having them come over and take a look at it. And it doesn't need to go out, it doesn't need to be formally bid if it's gonna be a price under $5,000, which I would expect that it is.
That's gonna be a budget issue because you're gonna have to take money out of each of the different.
Well, we're paying now, they're coming in spring and the fall, and we're paying for it. We're doing it by calling on the telephone. This would be, so we are still paying.
Right.
So how much?
Jackie, is that a budget issue, or is it just you take the money out of?
If they're paying for it already out of their contractual budgets, then it would be in there. Hopefully, if it's something by a contract, it would be cheaper than just who they're calling
Individuals.
to come on demand now.
All right, well, we can get the bids. We don't have to award it and see how much it is, and we'll go from there. But I'll get something written up and read it at the next meeting, and we'll put it on the website, and I'll make some phone calls. Email them that's it.
So no, we don't need a motion on that.
No,
Okay,
we're not
thank
gonna
you.
need a motion.
Sewer credit, 4639 Vrooman Drive. I spoke with Jeff Ritter today. He couldn't make the meeting tonight. To whom it may concern, last week we completed a major repair on our in-ground swimming pool. They're looking for a sewer credit of $72.90, and Jeff said this does fit the sewer relief.
Move for approval to reimburse Dr. Mark Perry $72.90.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
Perry Land.
So moved. We got that. Set Halloween hours for 10/31/2019 from 4 to 7 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just so you know, the village is 4 to 8 p.m.
Yeah.
So, and privilege of the floor, public concerns, everybody's pretty much gone. Brian, anything you want to talk, So, with that, I would ask for real quick upcoming meetings. Planning Board's October 24th, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. That is a change. That was supposed to be tonight, but due to the holiday Monday and us having this meeting, they moved the Planning Board to October 24th at 6:30 p.m. Regular town board meeting will be October 28th, 2019 at 6 p.m. And I'd ask for a motion to move to executive session with no action being taken.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Okay, would you pass that down to Carol?